Thanks, Paul. So your agenda is not deceiving you. Catherine Littler has undergone a massive transformational change. So I'm going to be chairing this final session. So I'd like to invite the panelists up to the stage. So we've got about 40 minutes. We're running a little bit late, but to discuss and have some concluding reflections on themes that came out of the sessions. So I'd like to invite Marisha Wickremsinhe from Wellcome, John Amuasi from the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research in Tropical Medicine here in Ghana, Seydou Doumbia from the University of Sciences, Techniques and Technology of Bamako, Mali, and Sharon Kaur from the University of Malaysia, who is the ghost of GFBR pasts. So she was the host last year. So I'm going to give each of them about 6 or 7 minutes just to sort of really highlight what they see the key takeaways are. And moreover, is there anything that's been left unsaid? And really want to drill down to some key takeaway points that we can take action on. So Marisha, I'm going to invite you up first. Oh, you sat in the middle. You thought you were going to get away with that. No, you come to the no, the podium. This is the final summation. We need gravitas. We need, and I apologize. I hope everybody put their sunglasses on so they don't get the glare coming off my head.
All right, cool. Okay, thanks so much. I really did strategically try to sit there thinking that you'd pick us off one by one. But yeah, I see that now. So hi, I'm Marisha. I work at the Wellcome Trust. I'm a bioethics specialist. And first, just to say, it's been a really interesting meeting. I think we've had lots of conversations. I think we've also not had lots of conversations. And I think that's kind of where I'm going to reflect here. So I think something that we've danced around, but often haven't really pinned down is who is a partner. That sounds so basic. That sounds so obvious. But depending on the kind of research we're doing, depending on the context in which we're doing that research, how we define who even can be considered a research partner or should be considered a research partner might change. And I think I just wanted to kind of draw that distinction between who is partnering to do the research and who are the other kind of actors who are part of the process of doing research, who, yes, absolutely may shape the kind of material conditions under which that research partnership occurs, or under which the conditions under which that research partnership proceeds, but just really kind of trying to draw that distinction. So to put a finer point on it, when we think about funders, when we think about institutional policies, they may perpetuate, exacerbate, wittingly or unwittingly, unjust structures that influence the nature of a research partnership. Obviously, those structures should be changed, but that's a foundational question to then what we're doing in partnership to either correct for those injustices, not because they shouldn't be changed, but because sometimes they're slower to change. But there are relational aspects of what we can be doing in partnership to try to, in the interim, mediate some of those injustices. So I just wanted to flag that as an offer of a way to move forward. And then I think another thing that, again, has been implicit, but that's helpful to draw out, is thinking about why we're partnering in the first place. So in Carla's session, she kind of identified that, we might be thinking about efficiency. Partnering is good because it helps us get to a research result faster. We might be thinking about benefit maximization. We're more likely to have a potentially useful research output if we partner. We might be thinking about equity considerations. We can promote equity through partnership. So I think just really, and as Carla pointed out, we're going to have different ways of balancing that in different contexts for different kinds of research, depending on whether it's an emergency context, whether it's a research partnership for a pressing health need, whether it's a research partnership for in the bioethics space, thinking critically about maybe something that's obviously important but not as urgent, right? We might have different tolerances for where we can take those trade-offs. But I think thinking really clearly about why we're partnering can help us then define what we think a good partnership is in context. So given that we're partnering, what kinds of conditions, depending on who is partnering and the conditions under which they're partnering, we might have different understandings of what a good partnership looks like based on why they're partnering, based on what we think the partnership is meant to yield. So, two friends who meet at GFBR, who live in different countries, who decide to work together on a project, we might have a very different understanding of what good looks like for that research partnership than we do when an institution in one country partners institutionally with an institution in another country, and how that kind of trickles down. So yeah, I think the kind of main takeaway for me is that there are structures, a lot of the structures are unjust, both because of historic conditions and the perpetuation of those historic conditions in current policies. That is important, and we need to address that. We also have an opportunity to address the more interpersonal aspects of partnering, where we're on research teams, where we have the capacity to potentially speak up, say, I don't know that this is the most just governance structure for how we make decisions in a multi-site trial, or I think, we should have clearer guidance on how we're doing authorship, things like that. So I think really kind of remembering that in the context of unjust structures, which again, should be changed, there are also opportunities as researchers, as research partners, to push the dial a little bit. So I think that was 4 minutes, 5 minutes?
Well done. Thank you very much.
Ross.
Thanks. So I'll call John Amuasi to give some comments. Thanks. There you go.
Well, thank you very much. As you might have noticed, I've not been around the entire time, so I was asked to reflect on ethical issues in health research partnerships, and draw from the experience that we've had so far conducting multi-center trials with consortia, which tend to be very challenging. So I'll speak to a couple of issues which I believe have already been raised, some of which I heard, but I believe would resonate with many of us. And these are things that we're quite familiar with, but it's always good to reflect on them and think about ways in which we could improve ethics in various partnerships. And I speak specifically to the area of clinical trials, which tends to be quite challenging. And often when you have multi-site approvals, these invariably lead to delays. And the multi-site approvals are precipitated not only because there's a partnership and so you're running the trial, the study in multiple locations, but even within the same country, sometimes you are either running the study in multiple locations in the same country, or you require multiple ethics approvals for the single site. So where I work, for example, depending on where I may be pitching the tent with a team to include participants, I may require ethics clearance from the National Ethics Committee, i.e. the Ghana Health Service Ethics Committee. I may require ethical clearance from the health facility itself, and I may require ethical clearance from my university. So that's 3 ethics clearances for one study in one place. And you'd realize that this could invariably lead to delays because you need to have all your ducks in a row before you can proceed. This also means that you may have different kinds of requests coming for the same protocol or CRF, and requests for various changes and adjustments here and there. So this is only looking at within a single country, and the problem or the challenges are magnified when you're in a partnership. So imagine you have 3, 4, 5, sometimes more partners running the same study, and for each of these partners, they have to deal with multiple ethics clearances within their country. So you're talking about, let's say if you have 5 partners and each of them have 2 ethics clearances to do, some may have more. You're looking at an average of clearing the hurdle of 10 ethical approvals before you can go ahead. And this raises a lot of time constraint issues. And the time constraint issues sometimes can tell on one partner or the other, where one partner may be seen as dragging the consortium and delaying timelines. And we've had situations where partners have had to be excused or drop off simply because they could not deliver the ethical clearance on time, and the partnership was on a timeline and had to move forward without them. So they had to either drop off or be replaced. Now this brings the questions of equity within the trial, and even sometimes the inclusion of study participants that reflect the diversity of the landscape and may have implications for the integrity of the trial in and of itself. And these are some of the issues which have come up in partnerships. Some sponsors or funders, for that matter, are more sympathetic than others towards these situations, and so allow a very long timeline to start of the projects and are not too fastidious with requests for no-cost extensions. But for others also, there sometimes is very little leeway. Now, especially when you're trying to conduct partnership trials or studies in emergency situations where time is of the essence, this has sometimes proven to be a challenge, and others have had to excuse themselves or be left behind. Also in partnerships, another challenge, which I'm sure has been discussed already, is just the variability in competence, or let me put it in a nicer way, variability in experience in dealing with various protocols and CRFs. And this variability sometimes leads to some kind of conflict, both between ethics committees and even within. I did face a scenario where one ethics committee in a certain country, I will not mention, refused to come to the table to join AVAREF in the review of a protocol for a clinical trial that was being conducted in multiple countries. And the argument they put forward was that we are an independent ethics committee, we'll review independently and make our own decision. We don't need to sit with others to make our decision. Now, this was born out of lack of experience, lack of exposure. Otherwise, they would have known better that to be at the table with others at AVAREF is actually a good thing for the committee and a good thing for the trial. But they did not understand this. So this variability in competence or experience also is a challenge in partnerships, which I know has been addressed in various ways via various grants and capacity building opportunities and so on. And because of time, I'll not touch on all the points that I had, but the one thing I'd like to raise in partnerships challenges with ethics committees has been the issue of the financing or the finances. There have been situations where in a partnership, one ethics committee in a particular location may be making astronomical financial demands on the applicants with regards to the fees for processing. The arguments that are made are that these fees are to contribute to the running of the committee, and I know that some of these fees also go into the compensation, remuneration, whatever you want to call it, of various ethics committee members for the time and the effort that they put into making those reviews. Well, I'm not in a position to say what is right or what is wrong, if anything like that really exists. But it poses a challenge sometimes, not only to the budgets, but also to the whole ethics of the ethics process. And I feel that this challenge has not been sufficiently discussed, and it would be nice if we could talk more about this, and some clear recommendations or guidelines, I know some exist, could be provided to hopefully discourage undue charging of fees for the process of ethical review. Not to say that people don't have to be compensated for their time and their effort, but sometimes also it comes across as almost fleecing the partnership simply for ethics review purposes. It can sometimes bring conflict into partnerships. So to conclude, I would say that the ethical oversight in global research consortia sometimes magnifies bureaucratic capacity, financial and governance challenges that you will not see in single country studies, or you may encounter only sporadically in single country studies. And in today's age where multi-country, multi-site studies are being encouraged, particularly to ensure that there is equity and representativeness and generalizability of findings, it means that these challenges with ethical review in partnerships will only be accentuated, and therefore calls for increased or further discourse and the sharpening of guidelines and recommendations around how these should be handled. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. So now it's my pleasure to invite Seydou Doumbia to the podium. And I know we're waiting for the awards to be given out, but I'm going to take Chair's privilege and give the first Best Hat at the GFBR award to Seydou.
Well, I think I'm the only one to wear a hat. Thank you. This is my first participation to the FBR. So I noticed some important issues, what to make partnership equitable. And so there has been a lot of good discussion about, first, that partnership should be built around trust. It should be also built around priority, research priority, to make it more impactful. I have also heard a lot about equity, and so some value around which partnerships will be built. Fairness, transparency, and engagement, and also commitment on all the stakeholders. We also notice that we are in a changing geopolitical landscape, which also influence our partnership. And so how we could think to make sure that the partnership can be sustainable. So sustainability has been also a key issues which has been arise. We think mostly when we think about funding from developing from developed countries to low-income countries, or big donors like NIH or Wellcome trusts, but now also that we need to think of local, how we can also mobilize local resources to make the partnership more equitable. So it should not be just coming from one side, but we locally also need to think how we can make more contribution locally, which responds also to the question of decolonization. I did like this presentation on decolonization, but decolonization also means that we need new mindsets and to be successful in leveraging in local resource. Also, we also need more communication around the transparency in the partnership, communication about the potential impacts of the partnership to the local community, and also communication to all stakeholders to make the partnership equitable and sustainable. We have also been talking about all this will not be possible if we don't have critical mass in ethics or research ethics, and for that we also need capacity building, and we also need to be connected to be connected to other ethical component, not only to the research, to make sure that even among the leadership, the decision maker, that they have some sense of the ethic, which may also make them sensible to what we are seeing right now. And when we talk about also difficulty in founding, but sometimes it's driven by political decision, but we are also facing crisis. Example in Mali, when recently you may all hear that Bamako will fall like Kabul, and then you will hear some funding. Should we continue to fund when we have activities going on, and how all this will also impact which look like what we have seen recently in cutting the funding of the trial, ongoing trials. We have also, based on all this, that there is also need to have some guidelines, developing some guideline, and we think that the Global Forum and with help of WHO is also an opportunity to, if there is any already, but to make some guideline about partnership development and equity. So those are some key issues I noticed from this meeting. Thank you.
Thanks so much. So for those out there, next year, bring a hat and your dancing shoes. So last but not least, we have Sharon Kaur from the University of Malaya in Malaysia, and was our wonderful host last year for the GFBR, so she gets the final word.
Thanks, Ross. I actually have quite a bad habit. Whenever I come for these meetings, especially if they're thematic, I usually come with what I think is a really good sense of what I know about the topic. And I usually come having already decided what I think should be done in a particular situation. But I must admit, for this meeting, at the first go, the two keynote speakers really disabused me of this. I realized that, right, actually, I'm not quite sure what I should be thinking. And when we were in our groups, one of the first things Yantina said was that good partnerships are experienced rather than defined. And I'm all about the defining and putting things in boxes. And I think in this meeting, one of the most valuable things that I got out of it was really just to listen and listen again. Let everybody be heard and respected, and to listen to the stories in the groups and the people I meet, and to derive that understanding from these stories rather than decide, these are the stories I think mean good partnerships versus bad partnerships. These are the parts of the stories I think are important. And it really made a huge difference to just follow the conversations, not to lead it and direct it. And it was always such a wonderful opportunity, especially in the breakout groups, to just do that, to just sit down and listen. And I think when we do this, it's a wonderful way to be able to see more clearly where we are, why we need to change if we need to change, and how we can change. And if we can do this, I think, then change is possible, and hopefully it's meaningful because we've actually co-created this meaning as well as this change. So I think, it would really be valuable for us to just go back and really sit with everything we've heard and to just mull on it. And in terms of reimagining the future, in our last session, Jacinta reminded us that each of us comes from a very specific and unique space. We are partners in different ways to different people, and that we need to reflect on what we can do in our space, because some of the questions are huge questions that is almost impossible for us to deal with individually. But what can we do towards building equitable partners wherever we sit? We have opportunity to make a difference, and that we should go away reflecting on this. So I think this is a challenge for me and maybe for everybody when we go back. What are the partnerships around us? Where is equity? Where is there no equity? Who is struggling and who can we walk with? And one of the futures that I think struck me in our group especially was Prakriti mentioned that actually we should be teaching this sort of thing to undergraduates. These are issues that are big, that are deep. We should be sitting with them for long periods of time. We should be giving students as undergraduates and as postgraduates the opportunities to start thinking about what this means, so that when they enter into research and they become partners, they have already had a sense of dealing with these issues. And I think in doing that, we have a good hope of making meaningful change, because then we really change the way we think about these things. What perhaps we can or should have done, I think what I would have liked to do, because I'm a bit of a megalomaniac, is that in each group, I would have liked us to have provided a statement to the group about maybe one thing that we would try and do or think about in the next 6 months in relation to equitable or partnerships that we are directly involved with, and then maybe to write back to the group in 6 months, just an email, to say, well, this is what I have done, or this is what I am trying to do, or this is how I have changed. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. And I guess we need to move to the conclusion. So once again, thank our panelists for their insightful thoughts. And I will hand it over to Catherine and Paulina to give out the awards and bring our experience to a conclusion. So we've lived a good partnership over the last few days.